CGTN, China Global Television Network.
China is celebrating its Lunar New Year, also widely known as the Chinese Spring Festival. The period is an annual practice of family reunification characterized by an astonishing scale of holiday travel and spending as individuals rush to buy gifts and bond with their loved ones. This year's Chinese New Year is being marked on the 25th of January, with 2020 being the year of the rat, according to the traditional Chinese Zodiac calendar. So, what is the key significance of Chinese Spring Festival? And what does the rat signify for the year ahead? I'm Beatrice Marshall. Welcome to Talk Africa. Now, according to official figures, 415 million people traveled within China in 2019 for the Spring Festival. 2020 is set to see even bigger numbers, with an estimated 3 billion trips to be made this year for the New Year festivities. Now, for Chinese nationals in the diaspora who may not get the chance to travel back home, the celebrations are still being marked with just as much pomp and color in many parts of the world, and particularly here in Africa. Our correspondent Nabil Ahmed Rufai is in Ghana, and he filed this story of how these celebrations are going down in Accra.
New Year festivities providing a taste of China in Ghana. The Accra International Conference Center hosted performers from China for a special production. The event was organized by the Chinese Embassy as part of a series of celebrations of the Chinese Spring Festival. The performers from the China National Symphony Orchestra and China Oriental Arts Group thrilled the audience with a display of music and dance.
I'm very happy to perform for the Chinese community in Ghana. I'm glad they enjoyed my performance.
The Chinese Spring Festival is also part of a cultural exchange between the two countries.
China is really a mix of cultures, we have I saw the reggae, that is the minorities in China, and a lot of people, a lot of tribes and a lot of confidence, so I've really enjoyed it.
I enjoy the dance and music and Africa and China song. I think it's very interesting.
This year's Chinese Spring Festival coincides with the 60th anniversary of China-Ghana diplomatic relations. Both countries are looking to strengthen partnerships to boost economic development. And while at it, they hope to deepen friendship ties through cultural exchanges. Nabil Ahmed Rufai, CGTN, Accra, Ghana.
And to help us unpack the significance of the Chinese New Year, I'm now joined by Dr. David Monyai. He's the co-director of the Confucius Institute. He's joining us from Johannesburg. And with me in studio is Ms. Su Ching, a teacher at the Confucius Institute at the University of Nairobi here in Kenya, together with Dr. Henry Kibet-Rotich, who studied in China for 8 years and is also the director of the Metrology and Testing at the Kenya Bureau of Standards. Welcome all to the program. Su Ching, let me start off with you because I want to understand the significance of the Spring Festival for Chinese. Now, most of the world marked the New Year just about 3 weeks ago, but the Chinese New Year is being marked at a different time of the calendar. Explain to us why it is marked at a different time and why is it called the Spring Festival?
Okay, this is because it marks the Chinese Lunar New Year, and it also means the of a new moon, start the new moon. That's why Chinese New Year marked at a different time. And Chinese New Year is also known as the Spring Festival, and it's very famous and important in China. So at this time, and all of Chinese people should gather together, celebrate this Spring Festival because it's very important in Chinese calendar. And this when this Chinese Spring festival come, and most of people plan themselves earlier, prepare Chinese food, and celebrate together to share the happiness and give the best wishes to the family member and the people and the relatives.
So it's a very significant time, it's a very important time in the Chinese calendar. Why so?
Every year everyone work hard for the whole year, so finally you need to share the fruit what you have get for this whole year. So we need to bring the happiness to the home family people. So your home is a small home, but the whole China is also another big home. So that's why we have this Spring Festival. And it also means the season, spring, is coming soon, and we welcome the spring.
So when you look at the Chinese calendar, you've mentioned a few very interesting aspects. One of the aspects, of course, is that the festivities will last for a week, but also each year the Chinese New Year is fated at a different date. Why does it change every year?
Oh, just because we use a different calendar. So this calendar we call it the lunar calendar, and which is different from the universal calendar. That's why also because the length of the year is different, a bit different from the universal calendar. So that's why the Chinese New Year always come in a different time.
All right, Dr. Munyai, from where you sit at the Confucius Institute, we are seeing many African countries now beginning to celebrate the Spring Festival. We're also seeing countries like Mauritius, for instance, even declaring it a public holiday. What is the cultural significance of this ceremony, though, to the Chinese in the diaspora?
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the nail, that we have a lot of Chinese community. Here in South Africa, there's a substantial number of Chinese and across the Western world. And this celebration has been taking place for a while. And as I'm listening to my colleagues, I hear quite a lot of words that are similarity, quite important words, critical ones: family, home, celebration in terms of beginning, bringing unity at a home front as a starting point. It is a collective in terms from a cultural that I think Africa share those critical elements where a family is central, and therefore I think at times like this it's a golden opportunity in which family takes stock in terms of bringing everyone in one place, celebrate, bringing good luck. And there's another element that colleagues perhaps could even expand on that is quite big in China, this of associating animals to a year. I mean, this is the year of the rat in China. In Africa, one way or another, we don't follow the Chinese way, but animals do represent an important element of our lives, where our way of living is not divorced from the animal environment. And I think that for us is quite important. But with modernity, we see the celebration of beginning of the year, the Chinese, even in China, market forces are also playing a critical role. Massive movement of people, it triggers development. Right. And I think even here on the African continent, we follow these kind of trends.
Dr. Roti, let me bring it back to family. Dr. Munyai has talked about the family, the home, the element of family during this period is very central to the festivities. Now, you have lived in China for about 8 years, but you're also married to a Chinese, Su Qing here. Tell us, as a foreigner out there in China, share with us some of the experiences that you encountered during the Spring Festival.
Thank you very much. I think when I was in China, my first year, of course, a lot of my friends were inviting me to their homes. And I was just wondering why they're inviting me, because I visited them. We celebrated the first Spring Festival with a Chinese friend in another city, and it was very exciting. All their relatives came together, and it was a whole week of family and family eating together, talking together, sharing, and also getting to know what has happened there. They also were interested in knowing about what is happening in Africa. So I think I also associated with Christmas, because in Christmas, we all travel. Like if you come to Nairobi, it's almost a deserted city at that time because people are going to their roots to connect with their families, to really get to know each other, to visit, even relatives they've not visited for a long time because of the busy schedule. So I found that in China, the family is central, especially in the springtime. And I think I used to see people coming back, some coming from the US, some coming from even where they're working, they're given holidays to visit their family. So it's a very important, family is central in the Spring Festival.
So,
and as a foreigner, I didn't feel like I was excluded. I was also invited to join the Chinese families. And one of the good things I found is when they are giving the what they call the small gift, the hongbao, to the children, I was also part of it, and I really enjoyed it. For the 8 years I was there, I used to get hongbao also.
all right.
Meaning I was being taken in as one of the children of the family.
So you're a family of mixed cultures and mixed experiences, both of you here though. How do you celebrate the Spring Festival? I mean, how do you do that give and take to accommodate each other's, positions, each other's holidays, each other's cultural traditions?
I think it's an opportunity. We are very lucky because we've just celebrated Christmas holiday, and we celebrated the Kenyan way. And now we are here with the Chinese Spring Festival. We're also celebrating the Chinese Spring Festival. And so we celebrate the two festivals equally.
Are there challenges during the celebrations, during the accommodating of each other's traditions?
I find that there's not much challenge because there's a lot of similarities in how the central theme of these festivities.
Right, I want to come back to what Dr. Monyai mentioned about the animals. Now, there are 12 Chinese Zodiac signs here, with animals at the center. Each year is associated with a different animal. We do understand that 2020 is the year of the rat. Explain to us exactly what that means and what is in store for the year of the rat.
Okay, so in China, each year is represented by the 12 of the animals. So this year is a year of rat. And in fact, in China's tradition, we say if you're born in the year of rat, also means you are a smart person. And usually you're well suited. And for the job, maybe you can be administrators or directors, and also you are the person who good at saving the money. We really expect this year, right of the year, we can save more money, work hard, and have a good fortune for the whole year.
Right, Dr. Monyai, I want to get your thoughts on this culture and also to look back and take stock at the African traditions today. Do you find that African culture and traditions have withstood the test of time today, and do they still have a place in modern life?
They do. However, we differ, even though Chinese and Africans have something in similar in terms of the role played by colonialism. I think when it comes to Africa, the erosion of African norms and values are much more deeper compared to our counterparts in China, who managed to uphold their cultural norms and values. In our case, I think modernization also came with another element, which is westernization, and people have a tendency of comparing and combining the two, which are totally different. We tend to follow much more Western. However, the elements within African society is quite huge, as you are aware, 54 countries, and in each country with its own dynamic, complex, different languages, and therefore, but there are certain common threads that run across the continent where the family is important. I think end of year, beginning of a year, it's a special moment in which people come together, take track and stock of what has happened and what needs to be done. It comes with lots of advantages in terms of people able, as an individual, being embraced and seeing your family and also seeing your community, people that you grow up with. However, the pattern which is also in China, where people, where they come from and where they work, there's huge distance. And that in itself comes with its own challenges. I stay with a lot of Chinese colleagues. I see those similarities, the importance of collective, including people that are not family, what brings you together, and the importance of food, eat together, sharing the food, and the happiness that it brings your ancestors, good luck in terms of as you go forward into a new year. I think these are some of the norms and values that are still practiced in Africa, even though westernization is deepening at the same time.
Let's look at the Confucius Institute, because we are now seeing a spread of Confucius Institutes across the continent. What is the cultural role that the Institute is playing here in promoting understanding of other peoples to events such as the Spring Festival?
I think Confucius Institutes are playing a very critical role. Firstly, just to understand each other. I think with China rise to become number 2 economy, biggest economy in the world, at a cultural level, people to people, I think there hasn't been a lot of understanding of the dynamics, what makes Chinese, and how do they conduct their lives. And therefore, I think what we're seeing happening in this Confucius Institutes, it's the linking where Chinese civilization interacts with your African civilization, both civilization also engaging the hegemonic Western civilization. And therefore, I think that comes with lots of advantages in terms of different ways and lenses of seeing challenges and how to resolve them. And therefore, I think the Chinese civilization also has so much to learn from the African civilization. And I think that interaction at the lowest level, people to people, what we are used to has been the phases of liberation struggle where people interact during the liberation struggle. And in the post-independence, it's much more at the high level, government to government. And this relationship between Africa and China has moved into business. And we always talk in terms of volumes of trade. But far and beyond volumes and raising flags, there are real people. I think that's where it matters most, where African people need to understand ordinary Chinese people. So that relationship is somehow mediated by Confucius Institutes.
All right.
And ours in particular has done quite well in terms of engaging the Chinese community within Johannesburg and South Africa.
All right, we'll leave it there for the moment, but we are going to take a short break now. Stay tuned. We'll come back with more on the 2020 Chinese Spring Festival in a moment. Don't go away.
Life moves pretty fast. Ideas move at the speed of sound. Technology moves at the speed of light. If you don't filter out the noise, you might miss the details. We pay attention to the details because they matter, showing you a different perspective. See the difference.
Welcome back to Talk Africa. Dr. David Monyai from the Confucius Institute in Johannesburg is still on standby for us. And with me in studio is Ms. Su Ching and Dr. Henry Rotich Kibe. Thank you for joining us in the discussion. Dr. Monyai, you mentioned it earlier, and I do want to come back to that point. This has been dubbed the largest human migration each year. Last year's estimates were that there were 415 million visits within the country during that period. Break it down for us, the economic impact of this for China.
I think what it does is that it revives the economy. There's a lot of interaction in terms of people moving, buying of goods, and the economy itself during the day. And unlike most economies, particularly ours on the African continent, China is developing what we call the night economy. People move day and night. There's less crime. And therefore, people tend to travel. And then the distance across the continent is being reduced with high-speed rail and transportation improvement in China. And therefore, I think what it is doing is more cash made available, and the economy is boiling. It has its own advantage, and in other areas, and it also brings challenge in terms of managing those volumes. However, the last 10 years, I think China has been doing extremely well in terms of taking advantage of massive movement of people, in terms of the economy growing much more faster.
Right, Shu-Chi, we look at this mass migration of people each year, and we hear about the numbers that are traveling within China during this time. And we wonder, though, even though China has the largest rail network in the world, how does it cope? How does the public transportation system, though, cope with such huge migration every January or February?
Okay, so usually when the Spring Festival comes, the government also give the announcement earlier and let the people plan themselves, prepare themselves earlier. So the people, they can book the air ticket earlier on the internet, even they can book the train ticket through the internet earlier. So everyone should plan themselves, because the time when they come, the last day, it will be really harsh. So, and even some people, they try to avoid the traffic jam and the big heavy traffic. Yeah, they can even organize themselves. They can drive the car by themselves, and some they can also use a bus. So the problem is you should know how to plan your time and balance, and also the government try to fund and planning the different method to let the people can manage to go home.
So traditionally, though, it has been, yes, Dr. Rotich.
I also wanted to add that I think one of the areas where the government have been able to manage the big numbers is automation. You find that now you can buy your own ticket. You don't have to go and queue somewhere. Even boarding the train, you just swipe your card and you go in. And a lot of use of plastic money. So it makes services, you can actually access services without the intervention of the human. And then high-speed trains also help. And during the Spring Festival, we used to see more trains on the road, brought on service to take care of these big numbers.
So if we look at those comparisons, though, because you've talked about the efficiency of that public transportation in China, and in Africa, though, often the inefficiencies and the poor infrastructure and the poor transportation systems often, make it impossible or near impossible for many people to be with family during the festive season. How do we overcome those challenges, though?
I think one of the things is what we are seeing, like, for example, here in Kenya with the SGR. If you look at the number of people who moved to Mombasa and out of Mombasa for Christmas, it's quite marvelous. I mean, it would not have been possible without an efficient system. So I think we are moving in the right direction by modernizing our services, using automation, and also leveraging on technology to deal with some of these things. So SGR, for example, I was reading the number of people. 4 hours you're in Mombasa and you are on time. Unlike when you're going by other means, which you can have delays due to accidents on the roads, it has also minimized the accidents. And so I think there's a lot we are learning from China, which can help us to improve on service delivery.
Right. Su-Ching, one of the reasons for the huge migrations traditionally is that there were a lot of workers in the cities who were moving back to their rural homes to be with family. But we are also understanding that there are now, workers from the rural areas, or the people from the rural areas are migrating to the urban centers to be with family. Is that the trend that is changing, or what is the future going to look like?
Yeah, it's a kind of a trend is happening. So I think before, most of people, they travel to the hometown. But even now, our people like to travel to their hometown because they have some relatives, friends we would like to visit. So in the future, maybe so many people, they come work in the different cities, and the urban people also can come to the cities to visit us. So can be happened, we can celebrate our New Year festival in different places. And even you see now, I stay in Kenya for 10 years, and my family is here. So my mom also can come to visit me. We celebrate Chinese New Year in Kenya. So the world becomes small, like a global village. So everywhere we can celebrate together. Even Kenya people can join us. Like yesterday, our Confucius Institute, we invite our colleagues and even our students from the different schools, and they came to our Confucius Institute. We prepare plenty of food, and even we made the dumplings together. We give them performances, so we will enjoy it. Yeah.
All right, Dr. Munyai, yes, Dr. Otichi.
I think one of the aspects that I'm seeing happening with Spring Festival, and something that is going to happen, is people are mixing a bit of tourism. So that instead of me going up country all the time, the up country folks can come and visit me and also have a chance to see the cities, enjoy the cities. So there's a mix of people adding in an element of tourism, a chance to go and see new places.
All right.
Yes.
I'm going to get a final comment from you all in a moment. Dr. Munyai, let me start off with you, because as we celebrate the Spring Festival, as we celebrate the beginning of the Year of the Rat, what are your hopes for the Year of the Rat?
I think the wish is to see this strengthening of this relationship, entering into new areas, particularly on the space and dealing with the health issues on the African continent and in China, and the role of education in doing this, the huge challenge of the 21st century that the two people should really deal with, moving from your business and government to people relation. I think that the stats of 2020, it's much more promising, and we would like to see more of that happening.
All right, Dr. Otichi, your thoughts?
I think the Year of the Rat is the year that is supposed to bring prosperity to the two communities, especially the Chinese and Kenyans. In the last celebration this week, the ambassador to Kenya, the Chinese ambassador to Kenya, urged Chinese to promote export of Kenyan products to China. So I'm very optimistic that we are going to see more avocados going to China. We're going to see more of our macadamia going to China. And we are going to see a lot of prosperity, so that as we engage with the Chinese, we are also exporting, and people are having more money at their disposable income. So we look towards a very prosperous 2020, where people's wealth increases and also the health.
All right, Su Qing, your thoughts?
Okay, in 2020, I wish I can work with my colleagues closely and to give the Chinese language and culture to more Kenyan people, and they can realize Chinese culture and know familiar with Chinese culture and accept this culture. And I also wish Kenya people can work hard, and we can have a good relationship. And I also wish more and more Chinese people can come to Kenya, invest this country. They can say Kenya is good.
All right, prosperous New Year indeed. And that's all for this edition of Talk Africa. A warm thank you to our guests today. Dr. David Munyai in Johannesburg. He's the co-director of the Confucius Institute at the University of Johannesburg. With me in studio, Ms. Su Qing, a teacher at the Confucius Institute at the University of Nairobi here in Kenya, and Dr. Henry Kibet Rotich, a former student in China for close to 8 years, and is also the director of the metrology and testing at the Kenya Bureau of Standards. Now you can reach us on social media through our Facebook and Twitter handles displaying on your screen right now. And you can also visit our YouTube playlist and the CGTN Africa website to catch this and more episodes of Talk Africa. Remember to keep the conversation going, and see you again next time. From me, Beatrice Marshall, and the team in Nairobi, happy Spring Festival. Bye-bye.